All right, I will call to order the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission meeting of February 13th, 2018. The meeting is being audio and video recorded. Commissioner Topham is not present. Are there any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, it's adopted. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of January 9th, 2018? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2018?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. May I have a motion to ratify the warrants of January 24th, 2018 and February 7th, 2018, and to approve the warrant of February 21st, 2018, which is not in the packet, but which we have in our possession if anybody wishes to examine it. And I think you've all signed it.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried unanimously. Pending leases, Mr. Rafter?
We have a lease with McGarvey Concrete Foundations for $45,738 in the bunker. It's approximately 21,780 square feet at $2.10 per square foot per year. It's 10 years with 4 5-year options for storage of masonry equipment and vehicles. We also have an operating agreement with Spectaculaire, $1,500 business fee. It's an air charter business, and they'll also be paying landing fees. We have a contract with Jacobs Engineering for $13,652. It's a non-AIP task order to lay out the 5th aircraft parking position.
Why don't you skip the next one?
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, go to McFarland Johnson and skip McEachern for the moment.
Next is contract with McFarland Johnson for $107,200 for a non-AIP task order for the seasonal hold room for design, bidding, and construction oversight. And I'll skip the one, and the last is a contract with Weston Solutions for $28,850. They're a licensed site professional. It's for the Stockpile X closeout of the FUDs. If you recall, that was the second phase of the FUDs project. It was Stockpile X.
Were there any questions or comments on these?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. You wish to recuse yourself?
Yeah, I'd like to recuse from the contract with W. McEachern.
Thank you. Perhaps you just go up and if you wouldn't mind. Mr. Rafter, the
So we have a
McEachern
contract with McEachern General Contractor for $115,170. They're the low bidder for the restaurant vestibule project. The start date is to be determined based on building permit award, and then it's a 45-day duration contract.
Any questions? Comments?
When do you think the restaurant's going to be back open?
Well, that's a different topic.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
I have it on my list.
What about the building permit here? What's the, I think,
It's been submitted. We're just waiting for the review process.
okay. Is there a motion to approve the McEachern contract?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Is there public comment at this time?
Hi, guys. Mark Willett. Interested party in the remaining land for rent out where McGarvey just got. Just wanted to know what the status and
We're going to.
status on that rebid again.
We are going to discuss that later on in the meeting.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. So then you'll be talking about maybe what the rates will be or potentially.
Yes.
Okay. So that's further on in the meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's down under the, it's actually down under the manager's report.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other public comment at this time? Yes, sir.
How you doing? My name is Tom Hanlon. Similar to Mark, I wanted to discuss it, but I'm just wondering, when we get into the meeting and whatnot, is that a discussion? Are we allowed to discuss with you your discussion about the rates and how it goes and what goes on, as far as, you know, the back and forth with it?
I think when we start that discussion, we will say what our understanding of the process is. And if you can shed light on that process, but we are prescribed in what we can do by.
I understand that. I mean, basically what Mark and I, and I'm sure other people involved in trying to rent a property, is to give you a sense of, from your perspective renters, what's going on and how it works and how we feel and where we're coming from. So I would much rather have an open discussion with you guys so that we can all get through this and it be beneficial, rather than me making some kind of comment that doesn't really involve me later on, or you guys discuss without
The
our
rules for
comment.
public comment are, A, we can't have a discussion, and B, we can't discuss something that's on the agenda.
Great. So when it comes up on the agenda, we can help. I figure we're trying to help you guys help us,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm going to limit the discussion now. I'm not going to let it go on for half an hour because I don't think it's necessary under the circumstances, given the prescription that we have. So we'll talk about it later when we get to that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any other public comment? Moving on, the general fund repayment proposal and discussion of in-kind services.
We have reviewed the latest response from FAA with the finance director, where FAA was not approving all of the entire amount to be reimbursed. And the finance director will be making an appeal to the FAA, so he's going to be reaching out to the compliance division of FAA. On the Brookfield Assets LLC, there's still some legal final work being done and resolving some minor issues, and there's no change on the crew quarters development.
Okay. Just a question. Are we still contemplating the revision of the MOU in connection with the
With the repayment,
repayment proposal?
I think the only thing in terms of revision would be what the FAA permits, the amount that is permitted for reimbursement.
Okay.
Other than that, I think all the terms are still, they're unchanged.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rafter on any of those three items? T-hangers?
T-hangers, I've begun the process of starting to look at the advantages and disadvantages of the various methods of operation. I'll be circulating that internally and coming up with a draft. And then I'd like to ask for a subcommittee meeting to discuss that a little further and put some meat on the bones, if you will, and then come back to the commission probably within the next 2 to 3 months with a recommendation.
Any questions? Finance, second quarter update.
Did you want to do the,
Yes, I'm sorry. On what? Quickly, please. Was it really, at this point, there's nothing to discuss, but
I understand. It's just more of a question. Steve Cheney, Chair of the North Ramp T Hanger Association. I just want to know that the lease expires November of 18, right? It's this year.
correct.
I just wanted, this is March, April, May, June, July. Do you think we'll have a decision within the next 2 to 3 months? And the reason I ask is because there's a lot of T hanger owners that need to figure out where they're going to put their planes, and we need some.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say you will have something.
well, I think we'll have a decision on the course of action as to which way we're going to go within the next 3 months, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The quarterly
Did you want to?
finance report. Are we there? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion of grant assurances, rights and obligations. You have in front of you a letter. This issue was placed on the agenda 2 or 3 meetings ago. Mr. Gasparo picked up on the fact that the proposed warrant for town meeting, Article 65, changed the town bylaws so that the airport employees and water company employees who had previously been excluded from the jurisdiction of the town manager were brought are by that proposed article brought under the jurisdiction of the town manager. It became fairly urgent to take a position which is essentially that under both the grant assurances from the FAA and the Chapter 90, which is the enabling legislation for the Airport Commission, that the airport, rather than the town, has jurisdiction over how the airport is managed, which includes the management of its employees. That's an oversimplification, but that's the gist of it. Our counsel, David Mackey of Anderson and Krieger, has written an opinion, which is here and available to anybody who wants to see it, stating that our position is correct. He has had a couple of conversations with town council, John Giorgio of Koppelman and Page, the most recent of which apparently was quite friendly. Mr. Giorgio, I'm told, agreed pretty much entirely with Mr. Mackey's opinion. And I think as I understand it, what is waiting to happen is a briefing of the Board of Selectmen by Mr. Giorgio. I understand the impetus for this article came from the Board of Selectmen, who were unhappy about the collective bargaining outcome in another entity, and decided why not include the airport in this too. In doing the research for it, Ms. Torres found a file back from the early 80s where the exact same issue had come up. And this was a very good, helpful background for Mr. Mackey in the formulation of his opinion. But the arguments was the same then as it is now. And apparently, Mr. Giorgio pointed out to Mr. Mackey that the town charter also says that airport employees are exempt from the supervision of the town manager. So that's where things stand. We're hoping that either the FinCom or the Board of Selectmen will get this motion amended. It's interesting because it leaves the school department, which I think is governed by another section of state law, out of the town manager's jurisdiction. But it, as I say, tried to include both the airport employees and the water company employees. And how it's going to end up, if it goes through, we're going to have to try amending it from the floor.
You'll make an ultra vires argument at the town meeting, won't you, Dan?
Absolutely.
I would
Mr.
hope so,
Chair.
yes. I'll stand by for that and support that.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any questions? All right. Thank you. Finance now, the first quarter update,
Second quarter update.
second quarter
We
update.
presented this to the Board of Selectmen last week. The revenues were up by $328,000. That's mainly driven by fuel. Without the fuel, it would be a decrease, and that decrease is associated with a one-time payment in the prior year of PFCs with the Island Air settlement, as well as a reduction in some of the parking revenue that we anticipated due to the transition into the parking lot operator. The expenses were up by about $524,000, driven mainly by the cost of fuel, as well as medical and retirement, and it's a timing issue with the debt service. The surplus after debt service was $2.6 million, which is down about $257,000 over previous year. The surplus, including the deficit and other funding sources, was about $1.8 million, and another $1.2 million was backed out for the fuel revolver. So we're slightly behind last year, but we're still keeping our head above water. Any questions on that? The other finance item I have is a request for approval of the revised advertising rates. We are doing this separately from our normal rates and charges. Normal rates and charges are predominantly aeronautical. But we need to get this approved so that we can begin selling for the advertising for the upcoming season.
And the advertising is not, is based on the fact that the FIDs are in and operative.
Yes, you
but-
may
and-
recall last year, there was a delayed start to the FID, so we were jockeying around some of those things. And as council has advised us, we established the rates for advertising, but we also have some ability to negotiate various alternatives as long as we're consistent amongst all the types. And then they would be ratified accordingly.
On the literature racks, are those the same rates as before?
I believe they are, yes.
Anybody have any questions? I will entertain a motion to approve the proposed changes to the Nantucket Memorial Airport advertising rates, draft dated February 13th, 2018.
Make that motion.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Good luck. Declaration of surplus property, the bunker parcel for utility storage.
This is a small piece on Bunker Road for a short term, specific to utility storage, and we have to do declaration of surplus property as a first step before we can initiate the RFP.
Are there any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, Cape and Islands Airport Association discussion. You have in your packet a email that I received from a member of the Martha's Vineyard Airport Commission proposing that the commissions of the 5 airports, Martha's Vineyard, New Bedford, Hyannis, Provincetown, and Nantucket, get together in somewhat the same manner as the managers have gotten together to discuss issues of common concern. I told her that I thought it was an interesting idea, but I would submit it to the commission for discussion. So actually, I'm sorry, I misstated. New Bedford is not part of this, although perhaps they should be. But in any event, one of the things they're talking about having a aviation career resource center, which they are going to have on the Martha's Vineyard Airport website, but they like to have all the airports as part of the process, and get into some career education issues across the airports, so across the towns. And what she's basically proposing is a meeting of commissioners from all the airports to see what common ground they have. Any thoughts?
They can all come here.
I'm sorry?
They can all fly here.
Yeah. No, if they want to come here, I think we could be happy to participate.
Sounds like a good idea.
What's the sense of the commission? That you would like to have participate in such a meeting?
I'd consider it, yeah, I'd consider it.
Yeah, I think it's a
You
good
know,
idea.
Okay.
Subject to availability, that's.
Oh,
always an
sure,
issue, but-
yeah. But there's one of our subcommittees you suggested, Tom, as possibly being appropriate for this.
Yeah, we could do a subcommittee, and again, there's different topics, I think, that the letter referenced. One particular is outreach at this time.
Right.
And just so the commissioners are aware, the managers group, we try to circulate amongst the airports, but the frequent meeting spot is Hyannis because it's a central part for everybody. So. And they're very accommodating.
do,
What's the subcommittee?
It could be any one.
Oh,
but I
we
was
make
thinking
one.
no, there was one you mentioned specifically to,
Long-range planning.
no, no. There's a yeah, but I don't think it would give it a chance to do something.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know that one.
Yeah, the other important point, which I skipped over here, is working in their communities to help people understand the importance of the airport in terms of its economic impact. So that's, all right. Well, I will, I don't think we need a motion on this if everybody's agreeable to the idea, and then we'll see what date they set and see who's available.
Right.
Okay.
Good way to proceed.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Rafter, your report.
Okay, on the vault replacement and the FID/PA project, similar notes. Chairman Drake and I met yesterday with a principal from Jacobs regarding those projects, and the vault appears to have an identified solution. They're progressing down the path to it, and ultimately we'll be applying for another grant, which the FAA has acknowledged that they would participate in. So I'm fairly confident that that will be resolved. There may be, again, a fairly substantial change order and/or separate grant. On the public address system, though, we had a very detailed discussion as to how we could proceed with that. I asked Jacobs to identify the specific costs that are associated with the increase that has been requested, which is about $200,000, and then develop a plan as to how that may be funded without our participation, if you will, as directed by the chairman. So we're supposed to have a conference call next Thursday to discuss that and develop a course of action to resolve the PA situation. The ramp area 3, again, the contractor will be back in the spring to do the seal coating. The geometry project has begun, and there's a deliverable due in May. The restaurant vestibule contract was awarded earlier in the meeting. The restaurant flooring, the work is complete. The next step is a full cleaning, which will take place the week of the 26th of the entire area. The RFPs are out. They are due in the 26th of this month, if I'm not mistaken. We had a pre-proposal meeting, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I mixed projects with RFPs. We had a pre-proposal conference on the 7th. The questions are due in, I don't have the date of that, but proposals are due the 26th. With regard to your question about the restaurant, Commissioner Buscarin, we're looking to try to have something that could be awarded for a start date April 1. That may require a special commission meeting if we can do a quick turn on the review, which I believe we can. And I had asked the chairman to consider a commissioner representative on the review panel as well. So we can discuss that in just a bit. And let me just finish the projects here. The additional capacity program they're working on, actually, I should say Noah is working on. He's taking the lead with that. Involves the expanded hold room. You awarded just earlier the McFarland Johnson task order, working on an HDC submittal and establishing the dates for the bids to be made available and a bid opening. We're working on the 5th position commercial apron. There's a lot of work that has taken place in the relocation and addition of podiums in the hold room. Our maintenance staff has saved us a ton of money by constructing a new podium instead of having to go out and have it fabricated. They've added some lighting to the old JetBlue counter. And it sounds easy to move airlines around, but I think Noah would agree. He's finding out that it's not so easy. A lot of data cables have to be relocated. All their peripherals have to be moved. So we're working on that in the hold room as well as the ticket counter. The inserts have all been relocated to their new positions. We're now just coordinating the back wall signage installation.
If I might just interrupt, having been a prisoner in the hold room last week, I looked at the podiums really look nice.
Yeah.
They did a very
Can't
nice
tell the
job.
difference between what our folks created and what, contractors is. They did a wonderful job. And again, what we're doing is we are planning as if the hold room extension will not take place so that we don't fall down. We have a redundancy program. So we're going to have it all set to operate in the existing facility if and when we get that hold room, which we're hoping we do, but we don't want to have any glitches. So if we do, we'll be able to move 2 of the big carriers out there and expand it. And that new area will hold about 125 passengers.
So it's basically doubling the capacity.
Yes, roughly. Other RFPs, the Bunker Road was discussed a little bit earlier. We approved one already, and that's ready to be executed. We do have a number of parties that have expressed interest in addition to the folks that spoke tonight. We have other interested parties, so I would recommend that we reissue, or we're going to proceed with reissuing the RFP. And as we discussed, we have an obligation. We cannot go below fair market value, and the fact that we've had an appraisal done and we have folks that have agreed to that price and already in the process of executing an agreement, we would be hard pressed to go to the FAA and say that, we're going to go any lower than that. The Hangar 5.
All right, before, let's, I think we need to vote, do we not, on issuing the RFP again?
I don't know if, we issue RFPs all the time, so.
All right, well, anyway,
you
anyway,
can
I'll,
direct us not to if you'd
no, I will rely on your judgment in that respect, but I do think at this point, I need to give these gentlemen a chance to speak. I would, however, limit the discussion to what we can do to make the parcels more available to people, but I don't want to get into a discussion of the minimum rent because that is something that we're required to do by FAA guidelines. So, Mr. Hanlon, do you want to talk?
Thank you, Tom Hanlon. So I suppose what I want to try and explain to you guys, express to you guys, I understand and I've heard that the FAA have given you a minimum price and whatnot, and you guys can stick by it. I don't understand that. I don't understand how the FAA have jurisdiction over what the price should be set at and how they got involved when we were given information by you guys, say, a couple of years ago. Now, I know once that ordinance was found on Weisentainer's property and you guys had to deal with that, then everything got pulled off the table. But when the RFPs were coming up, we were given certain information by you guys, and based on that information, I started creating my business plan that you guys would need from the RFP, and I started getting all my information together. And then the RFP was set out, and we had this astronomical price of $350 a square foot. And then, obviously, nobody bid on it. And what I want to try and explain to you, I suppose, let me start from the start. So I've been in business on this island for 25 years. I've got a rather large business, successful, thank God, and going well. So I realized that I've got to expand. And as we all know, land is very, very scarce for a business of my size and my operation, and specifically what I do, to be able to, there's not land out there. You guys have it. Most people don't. With Richmond Great Point Development, they're squeezing a lot of us out because they're developing their land. It is what it is. So I had got some information, and obviously you guys, I don't know if you knew it or not, but this is the plan that we were giving for the Sun Island Road property. And this is because you had pulled the stuff behind Bunker Road because of the ordinance that was found out there. You said, all right, we're going to, do Sun Island. And we were given a price from anything from 85 cents, 80 cents a square foot, $1.15 a square foot. So that was the range that we were working on. This is what we were told. Hey, Tom, this is what it's going to roughly be. So I based my business plan, I based my loans, I based my future, my projections, et cetera, based on this information that you guys gave us. And I'm sitting here going,
Which was what, 3 years ago?
It was 3 years ago. I suppose 2 years ago. Okay. 3 years ago. Okay. But this is what we were given. We weren't told that there was going to be an assessment. We weren't told that somebody was going to come in and do some kind of assessment of the property. We assumed that you guys had done your work and this is what it was. And this is what I based my plan on. And this is what I based my future on, my projections on. This is what I based all the information that you guys needed for the RFP on. So then when I received the RFP and it said 350 a square foot, you can understand my reaction. I was flabbergasted. I felt cheated. You got to understand is that I am prepared and was prepared to get into a long-standing relationship with you guys, the Airport Commission, based on this information, based on the fact that you and I were going to have a contract together, like we were going to be a team. Basically, you had the land. I had a well-established business. I tick all the boxes off that you guys require. I was investing in the Airport Commission. My company was going to invest in the land that you guys were going to provide, just as much that you guys want to invest in me. I mean, the last thing you guys want to be doing is doing RFPs after RFPs, right? You want to have a single tenant in there. You want to don't have to deal with it. You pay rent every week or every month or whatever, and it's good to go. I was willing and ready to enter that 30-year minimum agreement with the Airport Commission based on this original information, which is fair market value. It's what we can afford. When you go up to 350, I can't afford that. You got to understand it from my point of view. It's not so much that you can or can't afford it. But at 350 a square foot on an acre of land is what I would be looking for the size of my company and projections that I have in my company over the next 30 years. I'm going to need an acre of land to be able to be successful and to allow my business to grow and to employ more people. I mean, I employ on average 30 people a year. That's 30 people in this town that I employ. They depend on me. I depend on them. And I was depending on you guys. And this is, I felt really let down. And the problem was, because of this, I have now, unfortunately, and I've got to be honest with you, I have lost complete faith in you as a partnership.
All right, okay. We aren't here to be bashed.
I'm not trying to bash you, believe me, and this is not a bashing contest. I'm not. I'm just expressing to
Let me
you.
interrupt you for just a minute, Mr. Hanlon, and see that if you want to go on after I say what I'm going to say.
Okay.
You asked how the FAA can get involved in this. Every time the airport gets federal money, both the Airport Commission and the Board of Selectmen of the town of Nantucket sign what are called grant assurances. If you want to see a copy of them, we'd be happy to share them with you.
Okay.
Those grant assurances require that we get fair market value for any property we rent and a lot of other things we do. We have no choice. If we don't abide by those grant assurances, the FAA can come back in and ask for the money that they've given us for the last 20 years, which is a lot of money.
Which is usually 90% of what we spend on airport improvements that are approved by the FAA.
Right.
90% of that money comes from the FAA. So they've got their hands on us
They've
here.
got their hands on us. There's no question. And as I say, every time we get money, we'll get a grant, both from the FAA and from the state of Massachusetts. We have to sign these grant assurances. So we are obligated, and the idea behind them is airports, Logan is one thing. They have a lot of business, huge amounts of traffic in and out. An airport like ours, first of all, as we all know, it's a seasonal business.
Mm-hmm.
As we also all know, the traffic has gone down markedly in the last 10 years because of the competition from the fast ferry. And the Airport Commission has to be concerned about the financial viability of the airport in the long term. And we are seeing more and more. We have a list of capital projects that we'd like to do, such as a garage for our equipment and other sorts of things like that, which we can't get federal reimbursement for. That's $1 million, maybe $2 million. I think it came in higher than that. So we have to be stewards of our resources. And we are required, as I say, to rent for fair market value. So, I mean, the whole thing with the FUDs was very unfortunate from a lot of perspectives, the finding of the ordinance over there. But basically, it ground things to a halt. We had to use some of the land we had available to move our existing tenants, as you know. And it was just, we all got squeezed by that. Well, 3 years later, you can't necessarily assume that fair market value is the same. And if you look at what's happened to land prices elsewhere on the island, they've all gone up. We got an appraiser, and clearly that appraisal was incorrect.
Indeed.
Yes. We're not appraisers. So, to put it one way, we were kind of hopeful. But obviously it was not correct. And we reassessed the situation. We got another appraisal for the 210. And as Mr. Rafter said, we had one person who bid on it. We have, surprisingly, in the sense that they weren't on it the first time, several people who have expressed interest.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we had 2 proposals on it. One we had to reject.
That's correct. I'm sorry, you're right.
May I make a comment?
Just 1 second, I'll be
Indeed.
done. And so at this point, we, obviously we're sympathetic to the land problems that everybody has on the island. How can one not be? But we also have to follow the rules and do what the airport needs for its well-being. Because nobody wants the airport to have to go back to the town and ask for subsidies again. At least none of the commission. And so that's where we are. And that's why we're going out again with the RFP at $2.10.
So do you think by going out again at $2.10, you got one that was rejected, and you got one person who has absolute no choice whatsoever? Believe me, if he had somewhere else to go, he would. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say to you. The land is going to stay vacant.
Sir, we also had 3 other parties express interest subsequent to the process. I just want to make that clear.
Okay,
That's the
so
point I was trying to make. And I'm not going to get into an argument with you about
I don't want to argue. The last
well,
thing I
you
want to
are-
do is argue with
excuse
this
me,
board. I mean, as I
you
said,
are
I want
arguing-
to
excuse me, Mr.
relationship.
Hanley, you are arguing
I'm
with
not.
me. You are. You've
it's your
made your
opinion, sir.
point that you think the rate is too high. And we have explained to you why we think it is fair market value at this point. And we are required to go out at fair market value.
I disagree with your fair market value assessment. I
Well,
really do.
Are you a licensed real estate appraisal?
Neither are you, but what I'm
I'm
trying
not.
to tell you. Okay,
I'm
so
not, no.
I don't want to
excuse me,
argue,
no,
sir.
I'm not going to argue with you about this.
I'm not arguing.
You
Oh my
are
God, I'm
arguing.
not.
You
You're,
are- I'm
you're trying to
sorry,
figure
you
me.
are
Sir,
arguing.
I'm just trying to make a comment here. I'm trying to tell you.
You
as,
tell us that you have told us at least 3 times now that you think our price is too high. And,
I think it's an unfair assessment. I don't think it's going to last. I don't think
well, that
everybody's
remains,
making money right now in a downturn economy. Nobody's going to be able to afford $2.10,
That
and you were going to be left with a
that
problem.
remains to be seen. We don't know that for sure.
Okay, so you're going to risk the airport land on that hunch that you have.
We,
I mean, sir,
running-
I'm just trying to say to you that
we're running a business.
May I say something, Dan?
Yes.
Based on the information that I have, I'm not my risk is much smaller than you would think. We have several parties who have expressed interest in a number of different parcels, some the entire thing. So I can't, in good conscience, make any argument to say I'm going to lower it when I have people coming in and expressing interest in that. I can't do it.
It is possible that the fair market value 5 years from now could be different, could be lower. It also could be higher. And in which case the people who get in now are getting a bargain. I'm not,
or
I'm
they
not,
go
I'm not,
belly up, and you guys are left with no land and all this.
I'm not prepared to continue this discussion, Mr. Hanlon. I
Say,
think that,
fair market value is what the market will bear. It's what someone will pay. So you
So-
find out what that is. So you go out with that. If nobody,
no more argument.
I'm not arguing. I'm
least
just
is
making
then-
comments. You keep saying I'm
then-
trying to argue. I'm not trying to argue with you. How am I going to get into a relationship with you if I'm
certainly
arguing?
debating
I apologize if I feel like I'm arguing with you. I'm just trying to express like
I think,
what I'm thinking.
I think the discussion is done, Mr. Hanlon. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
So can I have this discussion again? I mean, okay. So we got comment later on that I can come back up and comment again?
You can come back and comment again. I hope you don't, but you can.
I'm just trying to work this out. I'm trying
There's
to.
nothing to work out. You are unhappy with the price?
No, 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 no. It's not that I'm unhappy. I just think that the whole process.
And you're
is
not
unhappy.
arguing with me?
I'm making a comment, sir.
You're arguing with me. Please sit down.
Okay, that's your opinion, sir.
Thank you.
Additional, may I move on?
Yes, please.
Additional RFP work, we have Hangar 5, working with legal to finalize that. We've also had additional interest, most recently expressed in that as well. The flat roof old FBO building, a draft request for expression of interest has been completed. It's going through the procurement review process. And on airport gas, we held a call with legal yesterday to begin to address the requests made from airport gas, and we're going to be finalizing that agreement. On the operations side of the house, the transportation network companies, also the Uber, Lyft type, we're working with Martha's Vineyard and our legal team on a legislative fix to the disparity that exists between taxi cabs and the TNCs. You may recall the state legislation excludes Massport or Logan Airport and allows them to make regulations and charges for the TNCs, but it does not allow other commercial airports in the Commonwealth to do so. There's been some discussion, I believe, with the governor's office, and they think it was just an oversight, so we're hoping to have that corrected. We had a recent conference call with TSA regarding our bag belt reimbursement, and I would just say it's not looking positive at this moment with the federal budget, but we continue to push. There's 19 airports in that group that are continuing that effort. Our family assistance plan, we have a tabletop exercise. It's been rescheduled to February 21st. Our full-scale exercise has been rescheduled to April 12th. And just a reminder, annual town meeting is April 3rd, and I'll be making a presentation to the Rotary Club tomorrow. Any questions before I go into statistics?
No. Anybody else have any questions?
The operations are down 6.39 for the month and 10.9 year-to-date. The employment pattern is continuing to increase. General aviation was down 22% over last year, which is about 100 operations. The employments were up 18.69% over last December, but down 3.7 year-to-date. Cape Air saw an increase of 23%, with Nantucket Air decreasing 21%. Tradewinds increased 33%, and Retrix saw an increase of 92% over last December. In the Boston market, Cape Air experienced a 23% increase, carrying an additional 255 passengers. New Bedford also saw a 23% increase, 39 passengers. And in the Hyannis market, a total increase of 5% or 157 passengers, with Cape Air actually carrying no passengers. I guess they're just ferrying their flights. Nantucket Air was down 21%, and Retrix carried 812 that attributed to their 92% increase. Vineyard traffic is up 59%. And on the fuel side of the house, the Jet A gallons sold for December were up 8.9%. Year-to-date up 6.67%, and for January, they were up 62.69%, which sounds like a huge percentage increase, but it is January, so we're talking a couple thousand gallons. Avgas was down 23.7 for December, and year-to-date 18.3, and for January was down 5.8. The freight continues to climb. For December, it was up 13.21% over last December and 8.4 year-to-date. The makeup of that is predominantly, I think, the Postal Service for that month. And noise complaints are down from 1 to 0. Any questions on statistics?
Anybody? Thank you.
On the personnel, we received resignation from a maintenance department individual. We're going to be posting that job. And we continued the replacement process for Mr. Tallman, who has announced his retirement in May. So we're beginning the process of interviewing candidates for that position. That's the end of my report.
The union negotiations you'll discuss in executive
Oh,
session.
I apologize. No, I wanted to make an announcement. The union has ratified their agreement, and we will have for the next meeting an official document for the commission to execute or ratify, I guess.
And the mediation went well?
Everything went well. It's very smooth. Just some minor correction type things, typographical, grammatical type things. Yeah.
Good. All right. Are there any commissioners' comments at this point?
I had one,
Yes, sir.
and I didn't know if we were going to go back to the restaurant to discuss the commission, the
sorry, yes.
participation.
Yeah.
And as we start off, if I could, I did just want to announce that I downloaded the RFP from the town website for informational purposes. So it puts me on the list. It also makes it so that you get updates whenever the questions are sent out, but I have no interest in, bidding on it. I have no involvement with anybody, just to make that disclosure. I just did it purely for informational purposes.
Okay. We did skip over this, Mr. Rafter, of the idea of a commission participation in the evaluation committee.
I mentioned it, but I said we'd get back to it. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah. So why don't you describe the makeup of the evaluation committee?
At this time, we're looking at between 5 and 7 people. The chief procurement officer has to be on there. I'll be on it, most likely Noah. And we have a subject matter expert who has agreed to participate. We're contemplating a member of the public, and we're looking for a commissioner as well.
If there are commissioners who think it's a good idea and are interested.
When would this take place and how long?
It's a one-time meeting, take probably 2 hours.
With some homework ahead of time.
There's a lot of reading.
A lot
Well,
of reading.
we received the proposals on the 26th, and it would be within the week after that.
I'd be interested in that.
I might too.
I'll pass.
I'm going to pass.
I don't know if we're allowed to have 2, if we
I
have
would-
to have a meeting or how that works. I'm not sure what the,
I'll fight you.
2 people's okay, 3 is not good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm agreeable to both of them serving on the committee as long as there isn't some reason why not. And you might check with the procurement officer or
Okay.
legal or whoever, but if there can't be 2 of them, they will have to fight it out. 'Cause we won't have another meeting.
You can flip a coin.
I think that's great, though. And it's good.
Or I'd be happy to defer to Andrea's greater
Well,
wisdom in any event.
let's see if you have to.
Yeah.
Let's wait and see if you have to. All right.
On that same topic, if
Yes.
I could we get an update when you do open those bids? Can you let us know, sort of
yeah, just to qualify that. They're not bids, they're proposals.
proposals?
They're different. And yeah, on the 26th, we'll have that. and You'll get it.
But they should not be discussed with anybody, right?
Who submitted and what their proposal was, or something along those lines?
There's
There's no price. It's
yeah,
not
It's
priced.
not
Very good.
competitive by price or anything. We set a rate and that was it. So
Be good to know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there public comment? Mr. Smith?
Hi, Jeff Smith. How are you guys? I just had 2 quick comments. I had a great meeting with Noah and Tom yesterday. One question I have is the current person that you're negotiating with right now, if for some reason they didn't end up going forth with their lease, would it be possible to write a letter to the FAA and say that we found that this is not market rate?
I believe they've executed the agreement.
They have, okay.
And the fact that we have 2 publicly submitted proposals, one at that rate and one higher,
Wow, okay,
is a demonstrated fact that there's a market, I think. So
understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more quick one. I tried to get on the agenda today with Dan so we could have a discussion about this. Is that a possibility for the next meeting?
I don't see what the purpose is. We've already had a pretty extensive discussion with Mr. Hanlon where we put what our position is out there. We understand.
Well, I want to argue with you, Dan.
I'm not going to let that happen, Jeff. Thank you. Anybody else?
No?
Any other comments? Hearing none, you have something you want to say?
I'll let it go.
I would entertain a motion to go to an executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to review the executive session minutes as enumerated for possible release, and under Clause 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. The chair has determined that an open session, actually, we're not going to discuss that, are we? There's
No.
nothing?
We may, because there's
Okay,
something in.
okay. Open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the airport commission. And clause C, to consider the lease value of various leases. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the airport commission.
So not to return to open
Not to
session.
return to open session. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call. Mr. Buscarin.
Aye.
Ms. Blanzer.
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo. And the chair votes aye. Yeah.